Mix has an argument for best command in the game, and when you see the crazy stuff it can do, it's not hard to see why. Most everything on the mix list is great, but these are the mixes that I use the most. The best ones kind of overshadow everything else, because back when this game came out, you didn't have a Final Fantasy wiki to look at to quickly get an overview of everything you could do. You had to do all that experimenting yourself, or get the strategy guide, I guess. Also, here's a quick guide to the 3 enemy drop ingredients. For turtle shells, in World 1, just kill the green turtle guys outside Karnak. They're a super common encounter, are super weak, and always drop them. World 2, there's some orange turtles in the forest tiles next to Moor. Not the Forest of Moor dungeon, but walking around in the overworld in the forest tiles. They're a little more annoying than the green ones, but still not too bad. In World 3, just come to this spot. The green turtles appear just as often as World 1 and are just as weak. Dragon Fangs in World 1 are a rare steal from the mini dragons in the forest right next to History, but be careful because they show up in packs of 5 and are very dangerous. Along with being a rare steal, they're also the only steal, so you'll probably be farming for a while if you really want those Dragon Fangs. I think you're better off waiting for World 2 and 3, where the best place to farm them is against the zombie dragons in Drakenvale, the mountain where you fight the dragon pod. They're undead, so Rays or Phoenix Downs can kill them instantly, although not with 100% accuracy. And if you wait until World 3, the Bard's Apollo Harp will also kill the dragons instantly, giving you super easy access to infinite Dragon Fangs. You could also use the Bard's Requiem song to kill them easily, which you get in the Werewolf Town right before Drakenvale. In my experience, the Dragon Fang is the best of the 3 enemy drop mix items, so definitely grab a lot of these. For Dark Matter, you'll find a ton of these in random chests in the dungeons, especially in the Pyramid of Moor, but as for enemies, I honestly think it's best to farm a ton of them World 1. The prototype that appears on the string of islands around Crescent is a very easy farming method if you have Beastmaster, because you can control them and make them self-destruct for a free Dark Matter and 4 ABP. Dark Matters are also a rare steal from the aforementioned zombie dragons, and just like mini dragons, it's the only steal. But after Worlds 1 and 2, the best place World 3 to farm them is against the Order Cats in the cave area of the final dungeon, these dudes. It's the common steal, so much easier than zombie dragons, and these guys show up all the time, so you won't be hurting for them. But for real, if possible, definitely grind them out World 1 if you have access to control, because it's the best method you've got until endgame. As a bonus, here's Ethers. I usually don't bother grinding them, but since they're super expensive, I'd recommend trying to buy them from Lix while you can in World 1, because they're 50% off and only 750 gil. I think Samson's Might and Dragon Power are undoubtedly the best mixtures in the game, and you could honestly just dedicate your entire mix slot to just throwing around Dragon Powers if you don't want to keep a spreadsheet on your second monitor. Just remember Potion plus Dragon Fang. Level is so important for damage. There's a reason that a large portion of bosses in the level 1 run are either cheesing for instant kills or chucking Dragon Powers out like crazy, because you do next to nothing at level 1. Most playthroughs, I would guess, beat this game in the low to mid 40s, and Dragon Power increases your level by 20, a whole 50% increase for a Dragon Fang, which you can farm for insanely easily. Plus, that's not even including that these mixes can increase your level past the level cap to 255, and that just catapults your damage into the stratosphere. Even if you don't want to grind on zombie dragons, the 10 level version is still great, and both of those items can be bought for super cheap at just about every shop past the midway point of the game. As an extra benefit, since spell accuracy takes your difference in level into account, that means that these mixes also double as debuff accuracy buffs. It also has the side benefit of making regen heal for a lot more, but most people probably don't care about that. But yeah, amazing mix. Basically the Hermes sandals of mixtures. There are a lot of awesome buff-related mixes, and I'm personally more a fan of the individual buffing ones rather than the give yourself 5 buffs at once ones. The Protect Shell one is the only non-blue magic way to cast both of these spells at once without dual cast. The Haste mix is amazing because Haste is amazing, and Levisalve is super nice to have for runs where you don't have time magic or don't want to go confusing Gaelicats. I wish they gave more than just White Mage and Chemist reliable access to buffs like these, because the buffing process is super fun. Dragon Armor and Kiss of Blessings are insane combinations of buffs and make you nearly unkillable or a nearly unstoppable killing machine. The only reason I'm hesitant towards them is because Reflect, while temporary, still makes future healing and buffing difficult, and Berserk is, I mean, it's Berserk. They're not coming down from that unless they die. At least Image makes them way more survivable. Plus, if you cram a guy full of dragon powers, then go Kiss of Blessing, fucking goodbye to whoever he's up against. Again, I'm personally more attached to the smaller buff mixtures, but these are still awesome. Instant death is surprisingly common in this game. It's more common than a lot of other debuffs like Paralyze and Flirt. Death Potion being able to kill heavy enemies is nice, but it's too bad it doesn't go through instant death immunity. Obviously it'd be way too overpowered otherwise, so I'll take what I can get. Because this mix is actually kind of expensive item-wise, I'm a bit more hesitant about using it, but using it on bosses like Gilgamesh on the ship, the crystals, or Necrophobe's barriers are always my go-to uses of it. I like that Dragon's Kiss is multi-purpose. You can either use it on yourself to make yourself immune to fractional damage and instant death stuff, or you can use it on enemies to make them weak to stuff like the Dragon Lance and Dragon Whisker. This mixture single-handedly gives a niche to spears as a weapon type, and that's pretty impressive. I love using Dragon Shield against World 2 X-Death because it makes his second phase way easier. Melusine is also a good boss to use it on, but she's really easy otherwise, so it's not as needed. Having all three immunities on one mix is great, especially since there's 3 separate mixtures for absorbing fire, ice, and thunder. And while that has its own niche, I'm way more interested in just preventing as much damage as possible as quickly as possible. However, this is another expensive one. Ethers are even more expensive than Phoenix Downs outside Elixir, but as long as you try and buy them in World 1, you're alright. Holy shit, you can actually boost water damage in this game. Thanks, Elemental Power. Do keep in mind, though, that elemental damage can only be boosted once, so you won't get a nuke if you put the Gaia Gear, Magus Rod, and Elemental Power on one person, and summon Titan, as kick-ass as that would be. The Geomancer and Summoner definitely benefit the most from this, since they have better access to water spells, and the Geomancer's Boost All Elements Rod is super rare, but even someone like the Ninja can make use with the Elemental Scrolls. Kinda sad it makes the Magus Rod irrelevant, especially since you can buy the ingredients super easily, but on the other hand, freeing up the weapon slot for something like the Men Gauche for better defense is pretty great. I definitely should have brought up Resurrection in the Blue Mage video when talking about Fusion, so I'm talking about it now. Arise and full MP recovery for basically no extra cost past a Phoenix Down is insane. What is up with some of the best mixtures just requiring a potion? Is part of the cost supposed to be having mix equipped? Because that's really not something I would consider a downside. MP recovery is so scarce in this game, except for this. I guess you do have to have a party member KO'd, but again, Phoenix Downs are cheaper than Ethers, so I don't know. Amazing mixture either way. At least this MP recovery can be used while you're alive. It's super weird that combining 2 ethers gives an ether which restores double MP, but replacing the ether, a very expensive consumable, which a high potion, which isn't, gives you an infinitely better result. Well, either way, it's amazing to get full MP recovery like this without using an elixir. Dark Elixir is probably also worth mentioning, since I'm pretty sure it's just Deathclaw but for the Chemist. And since Deathclaw shreds like half of the game's bosses, you could probably just watch the Blue Magic video again for my opinion on that, but at least you don't get access to this one until the end of World 1. It's also way more expensive than Deathclaw, or really most mixes in the game. Elixirs aren't Omega rare like in other Final Fantasy games, but they're still a really valuable resource, and Dark Matters are the hardest ingredient to farm for out of the 3. Still really good, because again, Deathclaw is good, just not something you can throw out in every battle. I actually haven't used Shadow Flare like ever. I'm just putting it at the end because it's funny that the Chemist can do this. Also, while usually Mix requires no stats to use, magic jobs actually can get way more mileage out of it, since the Chemist has a magic penalty of -4. Not the worst ever, but if you're going to use any of the attacking mixes, probably better to leave it to the support mages. What an insanely versatile ability. I've always been conflicted on Mix because it's really cool conceptually alongside the Blue Mage and the level magic, but just like the Blue Mage, it's a metagame job that requires a lot of out-of-game knowledge to do optimally. It's super easy to be creative with the Chemist, and I'm glad they didn't skimp out on the cool effects. Well, until the next ranking video, see ya.